On the podcast, on the podcast, the last cast.
By the way, these are not free, okay? No, I'm not yet. I'm actually buying these right now, and we'll see where they go later. What are they? There are three, I think, of those in there that are soft plastic, but most of them are the actual name here. I want to put a basket right there and throw from that dock. I don't expect too much, but we just got off the 4 to 6 beer trips. But we counted down. These are three friends of mine that I met over the last year or so. And the first one I met was Will Castle. And then, of course, his friend Shawn Sinclair. And then later I met his wife, Sarah. And Sarah happens to be a professional disc golfer. She was 2015 Women's Rookie of the Year. And yeah, well, I think that's where Shawn probably met her somewhere along the way. Shawn was a professional, at one time held the distance record. And now he works for the Professional Disc Golf Association in the execution of planning of the PGDA events all across the country. And then, of course, Will does a lot of things. Number one, he's been involved with the second largest club in the United States of disc golf called Music City Disc Golf, which has over 350 members. And you'll probably see some of those out here maybe helping us out in October in our big toss. And then the other thing that he has been involved in, he's the director and responsible for the largest professional disc golf tournament. Is it in the U.S.?
Tennessee.
In Tennessee, which will be this September for 5 days, 4 days. The Music City Open over many courses. There'll be all kinds of professionals from everywhere. So their whole thing has been to try and grow the sport. And the sport's been growing, as you know, with kids. And then over the last year, I've been trying to bring it to the seniors here. And soon we're actually going to have some of our own baskets here to throw. But tonight, you're going to learn a little bit about putting. So I'm going to turn it over to them.
So thank you, all of you, for coming out, and thank you for having us here. This is absolutely incredible to be able to introduce the sport to new people. I was just in Emporia, Kansas for our Junior World Championships. On the opposite end of the spectrum, we had from 7 years old up to 18 years old. And there were 251 kids competing, so it's growing on both ends of the sport, so super exciting. What we're going to do today, we kind of move the 3 baskets around. We're going to divide into 3 separate groups. So Sarah will be here, and she's going to help you work on some of your putting techniques and form. Will is going to be over here on the basket up on top, and he's going to help you do a little approaching. And then I went over here in the shade. And I'm going to introduce you to some of the most common rules that you would need to be able to play the game. Question.
Who's this?
This is my friend Justin.
Different tools.
Your disc is the ball and the club.
Yep. So we have an area that we tee off from. And then you go disc is. Same as if your ball was out in the fairway. Then we have to throw from that spot, and we continue down the fairway, and the hole is complete when you come to rest in the basket. Piece of paint.
It looks like the easiest thing in the world.
So we use and borrow very similar terms: putting, approaching, driving. And then the last thing I wanted to say, when you hit a golf club, there's pretty much one swing. In disc golf, we have two different ways we can throw. If you're familiar with tennis, you have a backhand and you have a forehand. Count off. 1, 2, 3. Are we ready?
1, 2, 3.
1, 2,
3.
1, 2, 3.
1,
2,
3. 1,
2, 3,
2, 3.
It used to be a pretty easier right now. No, I'm out.
You're out. All right. All of the ones, come over here with Sarah. All of the twos, head up there with Will.
Let's go stand in the shade over here.
All the threes are gonna come over with me in the shade.
Daddy. Okay. That's okay. Rocket's very cool. Yep. Cedar Hill. Yep. Yep. Oh wow.
2 Rivers.
Nice.
2 Rivers.
2 Rivers, yeah, that's very cool. Cool. Well, you guys are way ahead of the game then. So if you have all played ball golf, we call it ball golf as disc golfers. I tend to think that putting, yes, is very similar to ball golf putting. Mentally, you know, a lot of the short putts we see really easily are really gettable, but it's the short putts, as we say, drive for show and putt.
Sarah brought an entire box of these very beautiful, made by her sponsor, that says be kind, be fearless, be authentic. She has putters, she has mid-ranges, and she has drivers, and they'll range anywhere from about $10 to $15, and they're very nice words to live by. I actually have one I have on my wall. Yeah, and then I gave one to our commissioner. So anyhow, we'll be presenting that afterwards.
Pretty sure you could talk her into signing them for you too if you want. But yeah, I'm going to teach you the golf portion of this. I'm going to try and get you as close to the basket as possible so that your putt is easy, because I have a real hard time on the green. Sarah is going to teach you how to get in the basket. I'm going to try and teach you how to get close to it so it's as easy as it can possibly be. What we're going to talk about here is target adjustment. So we're not necessarily trying to throw this thing from here into the chains and sink it in one shot. If you do that successfully, in reality, it's an error. You've made a mistake, because if you throw that line to get it in the chains in one shot, you're aiming right at it. If it misses it, it's going past it. And you see how we've got some tall grass and some trees and stuff behind the basket. Then you make your job even worse, especially if you've got a lot of wind moving, because the wind's doing something different now and you got to come back the opposite way. So where you might have a tailwind from over here helping your disc get down the fairway, when you're over there, it's in your face and it's going to make your disc want to go up in the air and over to the right. Shawn touched on it. There's a couple different ways you can throw the disc. Really, as far as the rules are concerned, if your feet are behind your lie or if you're on the teeing area, you could kick the dang thing into the basket if you wanted to. But the two main throwing styles are backhand, where you're throwing just like it sounds with a backhand motion. And this is more familiar to people that are used to throwing like beach frisbees and stuff like that. One thing I would tell you is that these are heavier, they're smaller so that they can withstand more torque and go farther. So if you try to throw it like a beach frisbee just with your arm, it's not going to go very far. It's going to come up in the air and it's going to hook up to the left and fall back down to the ground. It'll stall out at the apex of its flight and drop. So what you got to do is get your whole body into it. Get your feet in an athletic stance, load up with a reach back where you're basically pointing directly away from where you're aiming, and you allow yourself to get your whole body involved in the motion. The arm is the last piece of the puzzle. You want to be able to load your hips, open there, start from your feet, open your hips, pull your shoulder through, and your arm is the last piece of the puzzle. You really don't accelerate until you get the disc right in front of your chest, and then you finish the follow-up. sure you'll hurt yourself. It won't go where you want it to go. Yes, sir.
You take your eye off your target.
Yes. Now, this isn't something, a lot of people will give you the wrong impression about this. You don't want to actively turn your head away from where you're aiming at any certain time. But if you're throwing far enough where you need a good reach back, you want to allow your head to naturally be turned away from your target by your shoulder. So when you're pulling back like this, for a split second, you should be oriented towards where you're throwing to. So turning your head away from a second is not going to change the way that your body is throwing the disc. But you allow your shoulder to just kind of turn it away for just a second and just trust what your body is doing, and then you pull through. So what I'm going to do on a backhand throw, which is my primary throwing style, is I'm going to try and pick a target that's closer to me, high and up to the right, because I know on a backhand throw this disc is going to want to come left and go towards the ground. So I would put it up somewhere like here. And then it comes down with the nose down. This grass is sticky, so it'll act like Velcro, but if you're on like loose dirt or leaves, you're gonna have to plan for ground action, so that means angle control. Put my thumb in between them like that. But from right here, I'd be doing the opposite thing because the disc is spinning the opposite direction. So on the sidearm, it's gonna be up here and wanna come back down to the right. So I would just throw it like this. Really, that's not my best throwing style, but you get the picture.
Yeah. How about release point? I mean, knowing when to let go.
You should create your release point in a natural way based on what your body does. So the way that you find your release point is repetition. So basically, once you pick your feet and you know what your comfortable athletic stance is, when you do the correct motion and you do that lever, you're gonna pull your arm through, and you want the disc to pull itself out of your hand. You shouldn't be consciously thinking about, okay, and I let it go right now. There's gonna come a moment, if you've really got your body in your throw, at the very apex of your arm extension, it's gonna pull itself out of your hand. And when that happens, just let it go.
Whether you're throwing static or if you're going to do a run-up actively, you have to have one supporting point touching that box. Okay, so the way you can think about that is maybe I'm throwing over to that other basket and straight forward I got these trees and bushes in my way. But what I can do, I can put one supporting point behind my lie. I can step out to the side and then throw forward. So the only caveat to that is the rule states that you cannot have a supporting point closer to the back of your disc. So I can't be like this. Okay, so I can be off to the side, I can be behind, maybe I want to be over on this side. Okay? And then the other caveat to that is when you release, you can't follow through and move your foot off of that line until after you release, then you can follow. Okay? So what that means is we cannot do a Michael Jordan slam dunk. We can't go because I didn't have a supporting point behind my lie when I released. Does that make sense?
No leaping.
No, yeah, no leaping.
No dunking.
Yep. Now the next progression on that is we consider a putt, because we don't actually have like a defined green like you'd see on a traditional golf course. If you are 10 meters or closer to the basket, which is 32.8 feet, you can't follow through at all.
Then I don't want to expose the nose of the disc to the wind, or else it might do the crazy.
I've seen people just push.
Yep. So there's also a push putt, which kind of takes the spin out of it. I don't entirely know how people do that so well, because for me, one of the best ways to make the disc travel this distance is to put a spin on it. But a lot of that comes from the lower body and kind of, it's called like an elevator putt, so that it's able to kind of go up and come down without a whole lot of spin. Yeah, so that's great too. So there's another way. Yeah, that's fine too. Yep. So that's called a straddle putt. And
Yeah, you got to try it again? Yeah, one more chance.
Oh, he got the happy one.
Because I was afraid last time I was going to get
Naval Hill is fun for the first half of it. The second half is a workout.
Is it? Okay.
Oh yeah, you're on that big open hillside on the other side of the park.
I took my like 2-year-old and 5-year-old grandkids out and just gave them some discs, and I just was throwing it, and they would follow me around, pick up the disc, and give it to me, and I'd throw it again.
Yeah.
So it was great. It was, started them out at 2,
So this time, remember how we said we're going to go around a tree? So we're going to do a quick straddle. So you're going to put one foot and then off to the side. And you decide which way you feel more comfortable. But the same thing, control, not falling forward. Yep.
Direct in front.
Yep, more like a horseshoe type thing. And Sarah will talk about that too. But the reason we're doing this one's a lot harder to do and not fall forward. Just so you have an idea. So that right there was a violation.
I knew it. I was going to
Because he had his foot in front of his other line. So you have to keep it back behind the line. It can actually, so the rule states no closer than the rear edge of your marker is. So it's actually a circle. Because if you run a string, so technically you could probably be slightly in front, because that's not any closer than that is. But the general rule is just think perpendicular and then you'll be fine.
Some of them is,
Roller is a real thing. You intentionally throw it to roll. Yep.
Especially when you went downhill.
Well, usually like low ceiling, where an air shot is going to get knocked down, and you want to go underneath the tree.
there it is. Oh!
Or maybe it's just an impossible angle.
Oh, mine didn't left too.
Over here by the flagpole, and the fairway's this way. You're not getting an air shot that way, so you can roll it and it'll curl faster. Basically, to go out and play casually and be set up for the best success, we're going to talk about 2 rules. One is your lie and your stance, and the other one we're going to talk about at the very end is out of bounds. Okay? So, all play starts on the tee. If you see beneath the page over here, there's a little concrete pad. Usually they're for most courses that you go and play. Like if you head over here to Ethan Page Park, there's a boundary around the whole entire park. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for coming out. That's the park, into the park property. If you throw over that fence, you are now out of bounds. What do we do when we're out of bounds?
Climb over the fence and get your disc.
You got to climb over your fence and get it. You hope you don't get caught on the barbed wire. So let's say I landed out of bounds. This is the inbounds area, and I went out of bounds. The first thing, you have to determine the last place you were inbounds. So if someone was just asking about a roller, maybe I teed off 300 feet back over there, and my disc did that. Okay? It goes way down there. The last place I was inbounds was here. So from there, that's where I take
With the penalty shot.
Yes, you get a 1 throw penalty. That's where I take my mark from. And what we get in in disc golf is 1 meter release. So we typically, and it's perpendicular. So just 1, 2, 3, that's roughly 1 meter. And then you take your little mini marker and you put that down. And then that's where your lie would be.
So if there was a tree stump there that you could step over, then you would take relief.
So that's a whole other rule called a large solid object between you and the hole, and you would play directly behind it on the line of play. Yeah. So anytime you're out of bounds, determine the last place you were in bounds, and then take 1 meter perpendicular, and then that's where you would throw from.
Who watches like disc golf YouTube videos or has ever seen any of the top pros play? You'll notice between some of the best top pros that their putting styles look vastly different, but somehow their putts all make it within the basket. So putting is one of those things that's extremely specific, and you just kind of make whatever feels comfortable to you just work for you. And the same thing goes for the grip. I would say the most standard grip is a fan grip, and all of you are doing that. And you can either wrap your first finger around the edge of the putter, or you can put it on the rim like this. And either way is totally fine, just whatever feels most comfortable in your hand. And then the fan part is your other 3 fingers kind of supporting the disc underneath, and that helps you just balance. And then the last part is your thumb. So I like to think of it as about 45 degrees off of the edge of the disc. All right, so we got our grip. So now we're gonna put all those things together. So you've got facing the basket, weight transfer, and grip. And then the very last thing to top it all off is spin putting, which I feel like is the easiest for beginners, and I do it myself. And that's using your wrist. So at the very end of your putt, right before you release, you're gonna kind of cock your wrist and spin it. All right, so let's see what happens. So we'll transfer our weight back, and we're gonna launch it. Oh my gosh! Oh, good.
There you go. So what we can do.
Yeah, that's good.
That's good. You guys feel how it wants to pull inside?
Is much lower. It's much more affordable to get into. Like I said, these are your balls and your clubs, and you can get one of these for 10, 15 bucks. Usually. They're good, but we've had a supply and demand issue over the last year or so, but
With everything else.
but yeah, I mean, your more premium plastic disc are 20 bucks. So you can get a setup. You can get yourself a starter bag that you can throw over your shoulder and can hold 8 to 10 discs. You can get one of those for 10, 15 bucks.
We're outside of the 10-meter circle. You're allowed to advance forward past your lie, like Shawn talked to you about. So there's a couple different styles of this. One is the jump putt, so it kind of looks like this. One is the step putt, that's kind of like stepping forward. And then you'll see some people do like a falling putt, and sometimes it's intentional, sometimes it's not. But you'll see like Paige Pierce, if you've watched videos of her, she's great at this, where she's got like an obstacle in her way, and for some reason her feet are in a place where she can't really like advance forward. She kind of like releases the disc and then literally falls. I don't suggest it, it's probably pretty dangerous. I've never done it. But this is what the jump putt looks like. Oh my gosh! I thought I was gonna make that one. Yep, and then the step putt, so they're a little bit different because the jump putt is like I'm jumping forward and keeping my right leg forward, and the step putt is the opposite, so I never do that one, so that felt really awkward, but
Oh, I had it.
Can we roll it in like?
you could try, yeah, so
So with that last shot, sitting right at the base of the, how do you do that? You can just,
Oh, yeah.
So if it were right here,
Yeah.
and you didn't really have a place, so you'd have two options. You could take your mini disc and you can mark it. I actually have enough room to mark it in there, or you would just take a second disc and just put it in there.
Are different. They all work, but they're all totally different. The disc he's got is what we call overstable. So whereas this disc is pretty neutral, if I throw this flat and straight, it should just go straight and flat. Where this one, if I throw this one flat and straight, it's going to go straight and flat for a little bit, and then it's going to want to hook up and go this way. So you've actually got a more stable approach disc. Go ahead and take a shot with something like this.
Do they have it built? Do they have the direction of the turn built into it? Or?
Yes, and there's each company, see how it feels a little different? You can keep that.
Remember our rule about we have to stay behind our mark, so we're not going to follow through and slam dunk into the basket. We all want to be fair. I am going to say ready, 2, 1, throw. And when I say throw, we're all going to throw.
So on throw.
On throw. Here, you got to listen to this one. Do not go get your disc unless you made it. Okay? So, if you make it, then you go get it. Those remaining people that made it, we're going to take one step back. And we're going to, oh, sorry. And we're going to do the same thing. Only the people that made it, and we'll get it all the way down to one winner. And then we'll start again.
There we go. Yep.
So we got it. Ready, 2, 1, throw! Step backward. So the only people throwing are the ones that just made it. Ready, 2, 1, throw! And if either one of them make it right here, guess what? We're all back in. All right, ready, 2, 1, throw! Hey! Who's missing one? Dave? Eaton over there? That was Laura. I can't say last name. All right. I want you to hold the disc up with your right hand. And very simply transfer over to your other hand. You guys might need to move in a little bit. You're kind of
We got some ambidextrous people on this.
all right, here we go. Opposite hand. Ready? 2, 1, throw. Woo! We got some talented people here. All right, we can step back. Still opposite hand.